So my testimony started, my story began at childhood, actually. And I was always a very outgoing little girl. As a young girl, I participated in all types of events at church. I was in pageants as a little girl, and my mom always put us in front of a crowd. As I grew older, I think I may even have the spirit of discernment, because as I grew older and I would stand in front of those same exact crowds, I would begin to feel the emotions of people, and they scared me a little bit. So I didn't feel that. I took it as, okay, they don't like me, or they don't like what we're doing or what we're singing, or whatever the case may be. So that continued with me into school. So in elementary school, if I had a hard time making friends. So whereas I didn't fit in any particular group, I felt sometimes isolated. Although I won't say that it was low self-esteem or depression, because I still put myself out in front of crowds. I still was vice president of my elementary school and things like that. So I wouldn't say that it was necessarily, I didn't believe in my abilities. It's just that I didn't fit in any particular group. And so that led me into shrinking back. So everything that I was supposed to be, or when it came time, so I would say that it's people bondage. That's what I call it, people bondage. It was a feeling of basically inferiority, or a fear of rejection, or inadequacy. And so through that people bondage, I really cared what people thought about me. Their opinions mattered more than my own. And so I began to take what other people said about me, and it became something that I let change who I was. So I became very reserved. Some people who have this feeling of inferiority, they tend to overdo themselves. So they try to make sure that people like them by, being more than what they actually are. Well, on the complete opposite end, other people tend to be more reserved and shy, and usually don't speak freely. And that was definitely a trick of the devil, because it's just not what God had for my life. And so I grew up this way, again, with the fact that I couldn't really fit into any particular group. And then also I was feeling a little bit shy and reserved, and I didn't speak freely, and I didn't do the things that I wanted to do. So, it went over into dating. And I even though in my heart there were things that I wanted to stand up for and I didn't want to do, it led to very unhealthy relationships also. So, it's sometimes in a relationship where you really wanted to say no, it became a yes just to please that person. In friendships, when they said, hey, let's do this or that, with girls that I hung out with, I would go along with it, just because. And I'm not going to say that I was doing it because they made me. It's not the case. I was just like, yeah, let's do it. And I wanted to be the firecracker. Yeah, let's do it. I wanted to be cool and that type of thing. And so it actually even went on as far as into my marriage as well. And this is the unbelievable part, is that when I had children, and I didn't like myself so much that when I had children, when they looked like me or did things like me, I didn't like it in them. I wanted them to be like my husband. And so I realized, this is not healthy. Your children are beautiful and you should be happy. That's when I really realized, okay, it was okay to do that to myself, but it's just not okay to do it to my children. I mean, I cared more about them maybe than I care about myself. And I mean, we all do. So I began to pray to God. And I began to tell him, like, God, you created me for a reason. I talk the way I talk. I walk the way I walk. I look the way I look for a reason. God, I know that I have a purpose too. God, please reveal it to me. I want to walk in your will and not my own, because I didn't like my will. And I told God these things, and he began to show me piece by piece by piece. The first thing he said, because one of the things that I did most often is I spoke negatively about myself in crowds. So if I was talking to a group of people and to try to be their friend, I would say things like, if they said, Chastity, your hair is pretty, I would say, girl, but it's nappy. I never complimented myself. I didn't take a compliment. And if in order to be friends with a girl, I would be more than likely, I would say things like, yeah, my husband don't do this, my husband don't do that. But I found it easier to speak of the negative things than I did to speak of the positive things, because he did a lot of great stuff. But I didn't want to be judged, or I didn't want anybody to take that happiness from me. So I didn't speak of the good things. And God said, this is what God told me when I brought it to him, because when you're following the ways of the world, you're shifted with every wind that comes by. You're like a leaf in the wind. So whichever way the wind blows, that's the way that you go. And he said to me, there is power in the tongue of life and death. So the things that I said negatively about myself, the world will affirm those for you if you allow them to. And that's something that I started speaking more positively about myself. And then this is how the devil will trick you, because he'll tell you, oh, now you think you're all that, you have an ego or whatever. So I told God, I said, okay, I want a happy balance. I don't want to be arrogant and prideful, but I don't want to be negative. And so God gave me an in-between. It's like you can speak positively about things that make you happy, and you can be yourself. And so when I realized that there's power in the tongue, I began to speak differently over my life and over my children's life and over my husband. And when I began to do that, my life began to change immediately. That's just one piece of it, though. So I also did not, I didn't like myself. I didn't like whether it be my hands or my feet or my nose or whatever, I didn't like it. And God said that I was wonderfully made. I'm wonderfully made and fearfully made. So when he told me that, I was just like, you know what? He made me just like this. How dare I say I don't like who he made? How dare I? And I began to just accept myself for all of it. And then I realized that my flaws were even beautiful. And I began to love the flaws in other people too, the idiosyncrasies or the character that they have. I began to love that in everyone else as well. I kind of self-sabotaged myself, which is another thing I did. So because I couldn't fit into any particular group, and because I felt like nobody liked me anyway, I kind of stopped caring about what I ate, and I stopped taking care of myself. And God said that my body is his temple, and that I needed to start treating it as such. And I mean, we're still overcoming that, but it's like something else that I had to accept, because, you know, I do love my chocolate. But anyway, it's just another thing that I had to accept. Is like, my body is his temple. This is where he lives in me. Treat it as such. And so my life began to turn around every time I opened up the Bible. Every time that I made an attempt to seek God. He was already there just waiting on me. And I feel like that the spirit of people bondage, letting other people validate who you are, I feel like that is definitely a spirit. And like I said, when you walk around and you carry that within you, people in the world will sort of affirm it for you as well. And so they'll make it valid. But as I became more and more into myself and got to learn myself a whole lot more, the whole entire world changed for me. I mean, it became beautiful, beautiful. And so I also even had a hard time telling this testimony because I felt like nobody else has gone through what I went through. Like, nobody else has a problem with being who they are. And my thing is this: don't let the devil tell you that your testimony can't change somebody's life. Don't let the devil tell you that your testimony is not worthy and not valid. You slay the devil. Whenever you have something that you feel like God is pulling you to do, that's when you push even harder, because the devil's going to try to keep you from doing that thing. And so I'm very happy to be here today to tell my testimony. Actually, I feel lighter, a little bit lighter. And if you're in any type of people bondage where you need the confirmation of other people to feel that you are somebody, all you have to do is know it yourself. And you don't have to be in the in crowd. You don't have to be in the in crowd. Because when it's you by yourself, it's you, God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. So you're in a crowd right then and there. And so pray. Ask God. We have to seek God, and then He'll answer us. And just remember that those things, because it changed my life. And I thank God for it. Yes. And so another thing that came from God, me listening to God and being obedient, is the fact that God gave me a ministry, and it's called Audacity Ministries, and it's the audacity to be you. So what does that mean? That means be of good courage. Don't have any fear, and being exactly who you are, because you're created differently from everybody else. And the whole entire world doesn't like Beyonce. The whole entire world doesn't like Michael Jackson. But they were so true to who they are. So I would just like to tell you is to have the audacity to be you in whatever environment that you're in, no matter who's around. Don't change who you are, and don't shrink back. Be you. Have the audacity to be you.